Hi, welcome back. And just to recap, we looked at personality and some of the models. And last time we looked at speed reading people and speed reading ourselves. So now I'd like to bring both those things together and try and look how that would look like and how that would work for you tomorrow if you're actually doing it tomorrow. So let's look at two of the models, MBTI. And we're also going to look at the model that's called DISC, DISC. Now, each of these models measure people on particular scales. So each of those models can be used to measure yourself and to measure someone else in the room. Now, I'm just going to pick on one of the scales for each of these models, but it actually applies for every single one of those scales. So let's give an example for Myers-Briggs MBTI. One of the scales that you can measure personality, in fact the preference, is what's called the N and the S scale. So there's a scale. Now at this side of the scale, we are more comfortable with details and with facts. It's the facts that we want, it's the facts that matter. Now this end of the scale, actually it's the ideas that matter. It's the big picture that matters. So just consider the following. If I'm a big picture sort of person, I'll be talking about the big picture. It might be inspirational, but I may not be using the facts. My presentation may not be undergirded by facts. It could come across to someone as being pie in the sky, not well thought out. So, if I'm an N person, and I like the big picture, but the people in the room are S people, I've got to make sure I'm presenting facts, well-researched facts, not opinions. Now that's quite clear. But what about the other way round? Supposing, and this might be the case for many of the practitioners in business continuity, they actually were very comfortable with the facts, were very comfortable with the concrete. It's actually the ambiguous nature of things that we become a little bit less clear over. So what can happen is when we do a presentation, we can swamp people with facts. And the big picture people in the room cannot see the pattern. They can't see where we're heading. They just get overwhelmed by a sense of facts. And what happens when this happens? People turn off. People just tune out of what you're saying. And so we lose purchase there. So that's a scale. But then you can ask, how do I know what sort of people I'm dealing with in the room? Now, you learn by doing and checking. But there are some pointers. How do they do their presentations? Go on the web. Go on the intranet. Find presentations done by the other executives. Find out what sort of presentation they have. And ask yourself, is it a presentation about detail and about facts? Is it appealing to facts? Or is it big picture, big concept, ideas? And that's not everything, but that's a starting point, something you can actually do tomorrow to make a decision about where you are and where others are. Now, let's go to DISC. Let's do this other personality model over here and ask ourselves the same way. Now, in this personality model, one of the ways in which personalities are measured is by speed. So, if you like, we've got fast and we've got slow. Now, I don't want slow to have a negative connotation here. What might be a better way is describing people who want to be right. They want to know that what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're living is actually true, and they don't want to jump before they know whether it's true or not. So if you like, slow might be a better put sort of right 99% of the time. Whereas when we go up to here, people who are quite happy being right maybe only 90% of the time. Now, if you are a fast-paced person, if you're running your life at a certain speed and someone comes in the room and they give a presentation that is measured and careful, it would come across as slow. And then it's not too much of a jump to think, well, this person isn't very dynamic. Do we really think this person can actually do what they're saying? And in fact, what can come across again is, does that person actually believe in this enough? Because often speed of presentation and energy are soon to be the same thing. So if you naturally sit down here, you might want to become a little faster, a little more comfortable, a little bit more dramatic. But let's look at the other way round. And this is a wonderful stereotype of management. This is the stereotype of the management consultant that comes in and says all these things really fast, and somehow the people in the room have got no idea what's going on. They're fast, fast, fast. But it comes across often as lack of thought out, lack of sincerity. Almost they're speaking fast because they don't want us to think about it. They want us to take the line. And so if you are naturally fast, you might want to slow down a bit. You might want to take care. If you take care and slow down, people in the room will be following your thoughts rather than being bombarded by a whole sea of ideas, of which they will be so relieved when you stop that your only chance of getting a decision will be if you promise never to speak to them again. So here is another way in which we can adapt ourselves. But how do we speed read these people? How do we speed read? Well, again, we've got to take time. We've got to ask ourselves: are they coming across as fast? But sometimes you can even see it in the way they move. They actually go from one end to the other. They're already thinking about the next cup of tea while they're finishing off their presentation. Yeah, it's just like a steam train, their life. Whereas some of these people, you just feel they've got a bit of peace about them. They've got a bit of centeredness about them. And you can pick that up not just when they're speaking, but how they live, how they like to operate. And these are just, here we've just done we've picked two lines from these models. But you can pick other lines from other models, and you can start to work this through. And when you do, the sense of energy, the sense of connection, the sense of having meetings where you're on the same page, and most importantly, the sense of building trust one to another and avoiding miscommunication. So well, let's go through what we looked at. We looked at personality models, the idea that personality affects all sorts of aspects of our lives and how we communicate. We talked about how there were models that you could go on the web and find out and start to find about yourself. And then we talked about the idea of it only becomes true if you can be aware of it at the time, if you can be self-aware of how your personality and emotions are affecting you in the here and now. And it only becomes useful if you can become aware of how that is likely to be coming across to the senior management in the here and now. And now we've just rounded that off to start to say, well, how does that dynamic work itself out in terms of developing? And here we've seen that we actually can start to take ways in which a model works, and then we can adapt our presentation style and our approaches to that. So I hope you're going to want to do this. I hope this won't be one of those courses where you just feel, oh yes, it was tree hugging and singing Kumbaya. I hope you can see that this can make a difference. And my favourite bit about it all is, it's not just a difference at the water cooler. It's not just a difference when you go into the boardroom. This is the difference in the things that matter most, the everyday interactions with the people you care about or you need to care about. So I hope you start doing this, and see you again soon.